While Magritte played games with the bourgeois Belgian mind, there was another, less well-known, more vulnerable Belgian surrealist who actually tried to grapple with it. Paul Delvaux spent his life trying to open up cracks in the psyche, to see what might lie within. Delvaux himself began life as a bourgeois and ended it as a wild-haired bohemian. His art was a journey, leading from the safe salon subject matter of his youth, the steam trains of Belgium's Industrial Revolution, to the more troubling, sexually charged work of his maturity. How did Delvaux get to the destination of his later art, filled as it is with curiously transfixing glassy-eyed nudes and ghastly reminders of death? Well, he bought a ticket, as a young man, to a peculiar kind of fairground attraction. You have to imagine yourself back to 1932. It's the summer fair in Brussels, the height of July, and star attraction is the Spitzner horror show. Display of skeletons, anatomical models. The young Paul Delvaux enters the booth through a pair of red curtains, and he remembers what he sees for the rest of his life with the force of a revelation. Grisly displays of syphilitic disease, models of human genitalia that have been deformed by illness. Now, as far as the Belgian authorities are concerned, this is a kind of government health warning. It's a way of encouraging Belgium's young men, particularly soldiers, to steer clear of prostitutes. But to Delvaux, this young man brought up by a cosseting mother, a rather prudish father, the scene was like an eruption of sexuality and death into his hitherto rather conservative world. Almost overnight, the spectacle triggered a sudden unleashing of latent desires and anxieties onto his canvases. What's the deeper message behind the strangeness of Delvaux's art? On one level, he's proclaiming in paint what Freud had written in psychoanalysis, telling us that no matter how normal we like to seem, we are, all of us, constantly subject to subconscious dreams and fantasies ruled by thoughts of sex and death. That's why naked women stalk his otherwise bourgeois precincts. They stand, or lie, for desire. In some of his wartime work, Delvaux's sense that we hide from what we don't want to know becomes charged with even darker meanings. If we don't control our drives, what might we do to the world? In his Sleeping Venus, apart from the central nude, everyone seems to be looking at something beyond the tight confines of the architecture. Something terrible, to judge by their staring eyes and agonized expressions. The skeleton has the air of a messenger, bringing unwelcome news to the lady in the feathered hat. News of the goings-on at Belsen or Auschwitz. After the war, and this outpouring of anguish and guilt, did Delvaux have anything left? Some say he was so traumatized that he spent the rest of his life almost sleepwalking, retreating into a rather safe fantasy world, as if he couldn't bear all that he'd uncovered. In the early 1950s, Delvaux embarked on his largest cycle of paintings. It's in a private home, in a gated enclave, within one of Brussels' exclusive neighbourhoods. Only a handful of people have ever seen it. Wow, it's straight in. I had no idea it was going to be so big. I mean, you really feel like you're in Paul Delvaux's world.
No, I like this world, but I think sometimes it can be strange and weird. You feel like there's people watching you and observing you, and you don't know really what they are thinking. about you, of you.
So you like it, but it sort of sometimes makes you feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, you know, like with the paintings, most of the time the curtains, they have to be closed to preserve the paintings. So it's not that easy to live in a house like this.
So when you do throw the curtains open to the light, do you sometimes feel that the figures in the painting almost like they've been asleep and now they come back to life?
Exactly. They're quite happy to come back to life.
Do you know how long it took Delvaux to create this mise en scène?
It took him 2 years. So at the beginning it was supposed to take 6 months, and then he realized that the work was much bigger.
2 years? It's a cross between bourgeois Brussels and the classical past.
You don't really know if you are in Italy or in Greece, in antique Greece.
But I like the way we sort of come from the commissioner of the painting and his daughter, and we come down these stairs. We seem to go from the present day in the 1950s into the classical past. Then we're into sort of the 19th century. And then we're back into the classical past, and suddenly all their clothes are falling off.
But there's not really an expression on the faces. They're quite beautiful women, but there's no expressions, and that's what's weird, because we expect them maybe to smile or to be enjoying themselves, you know, because it's nature and it's landscape. But there's no expression, so you feel that there's something weird happening, but you don't know what exactly.
I often think with Delvaux what he does is he takes the traditions of the past and surrealizes them. He makes them somehow, you think you know where you are, but then you start looking closely and you think, oh no, it's not like that. It's almost, as you say, almost the classical past, but not really. Almost the modern day, no, not quite. Almost a mythological painting, but no, something strange. But you can never get beyond that mystery. It's not.
Yeah, there's something about the dream.
Something about the dream, yeah.